Call meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock for the regular city council meeting, September the 19th. If I could ask everyone, if we would, please stand for the pledge of the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have cell phones, which I know most of you do, I'd like to ask you if you would silence them or either turn your cell phones off, please. Okay, second item on the agenda is the mayor's comments. I'd like to first of all, during the storm of Monday was a week ago, we had some damage here in Cumming, mainly trees, falling limbs, and one of the big trees on Highway 9 at the intersection of Purplewood Circle and Mountain Brook came across Highway 9 and then Mountain Brook, blocking it for a few hours until our city street crew got their equipment and removed the trees from the highways so it'd be passable. But unfortunately, the power companies, Georgia Power, didn't get in for a couple of days, and people in the area was without power. But due to the fact that Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County, Henry County, Clayton County, all the counties in the south had a lot more damage. Most of the equipment was in that area fixing and getting power restored back to the hospitals and emergency facilities. So we were able to get the Georgia Power crew in here on a Wednesday morning, and the power was restored in all the area of Mountain Brook and Highway 9 and around the Triple Gap Road about 6 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. So we thank to all of the street department for their hard work and dedication, and they're still hauling off debris from all of the streets and coming. All of it hadn't been completed, and it'll take a few more days to get the debris and trees and limbs hauled. But that's a curbside side service that's provided by the city at no charge. So our crews has been working fiercely to try to clean up all the subdivisions in Cumming. All the personnel, including the police department, did an extremely great job in doing work and getting everything working back properly. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the power was out, the city generators worked perfectly at the water plant, treatment water plant, and also the withdrawal plant. So all of those generators came on and did a flawless job in keeping all of the citizens coming in for South County with water. So we're proud of that. And again, thank all of them, all of our department and people who in the community who work with all of the city employees. Okay, with that said, we have the agenda that's been presented. Are there any corrections to the agenda? If not, I hear motion to be approved.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, please vote. Okay, need for executive session.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a need for an executive session to discuss potential litigation as well as real estate acquisition. I don't know if the council wants to consider it at the end of the agenda or not.
In light of the agenda, I would recommend to the board that we put the executive session at the end with their board's approval?
I make a motion that we do that.
Have a motion, have a
Second.
second. Please vote. Unanimous, thank you very much, it'll be at the end. Okay, item 5, consideration for adoption of the minutes of the regular city council meeting, August the 15th, 2017. I assume everybody got a copy of those minutes. If no corrections, the chair will entertain a motion.
So move.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Please vote. Unanimous, thank you very much. Item 6, acknowledgements, proclamations, resolutions. Do we have anybody here from the Daughters of the American? Okay, I'll read the proclamation and invite you up to the podium here. It's a proclamation commemorating the 230th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States. Whereas the Constitution of the United States, the guardian of our liberties, is a product of the reflection and choice embodying the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, not by man. Whereas September the 17th, 2017 marks the 230th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitution Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to the memorable anniversary and to the patriotic exercises that will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issue of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September the 19th through September the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, H. Ford Gravett, as the mayor of the city of Cumming and the Cumming City Council, proclaim said week as Constitutional Week in Cumming, Georgia, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and to express gratitude for the privilege of American citizenship in our republic, functioning under the superb body of laws, the Constitution of the United States of America, proclaimed this 19th day of September 2017 and presented to the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, Chestatee River Chapter, Cumming, Georgia. Would you please come up, please? And certainly if y'all like to have the podium to speak, you're certainly welcome to speak in reference. Okay, come on up.
Just appreciate this opportunity.
Present you. Under old business, there being none, under new business, item A, administration, Item one is Marketplace Commons is here. We have a representative from Marketplace Commons here in reference to the service fee that's charged by the City of Cumming to Marketplace Common homeowners. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Deepak and I think Soprinas, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but certainly come up to the podium and make your presentation and state your name for the record, because I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
My name is Deepak.
And I'm Srinivas.
Thank you for letting us speak on this matter. As I said, my name is Deepak and I am a resident of Marketplace Commons. There are other residents from the same community and they are here for the same cause. Thank you everyone for coming here. We wanted to bring to your attention that there is a residential service fees which each resident in our community is paying to the city. And I learned recently that long time ago, I think 2007, 2008, the negotiation between developers and the city has come to a conclusion that this will be a fees which will be paid by each resident once the community developed and people start living in it. We were not there at the time, but when we started buying the house, we were under the impression that everyone in the community who is residing in the city would be paying the same fees. But soon after, when we started looking at what it is, exactly knowing why we are paying the fee, we found, and this is what most of us feel this way, this fee is not something specifically we are getting additional services, which is different than any other resident of the city of Cumming. And this fee is actually going to the city general fund. So this is utilized for anybody and everybody who is residing in the city. So we feel this is unfair. If there is any reason that city has to recoup the revenue, then you city council members should be thinking that should be generated from all the residents and not singling out only few new residents of few neighborhoods. So what we request is you should think about this residential fee for us and think about just completely removing these fees from our community as well as the other communities, which I believe nobody has other than us for now, but in going future, when the communities get developed, they will also be paying the similar kind of fees.
Okay, Mr. DePack, when I spoke to you all before, I think a week ago, this past Saturday maybe, and maybe the day or a few days before that, had a conversation in reference to the fees. And tried to enlighten the homeowners what transpired that caused the fee to be placed on the 133 lots. Some of the action was taken primarily due to the fact that that piece of property where the 133 lots sit today was prior to the residential, the MU zoning, it was commercial. It was all zoned commercial whenever the development of Marketplace Boulevard was constructed. The development of the lots where the homes are now was never developed, and it sit there for about 10 years undeveloped, and due to the fact that different owners took over the property at some point during that 10 years. They came to the city wanting to change the zoning from the commercial, which commercial would have provided a revenue stream for the services that would be provided for the city by virtue of sales tax, business license, and so forth. One of the things that was discussed whenever it was brought before the board was the fact that residential did not bring any revenue stream to the city of Cumming because the city doesn't have a city property tax. We don't assess the property. I know all of you have gotten a bill from the county recently in reference to your property taxes, and it won't be followed up by the city because the city doesn't assess your property. We don't have ad valorem or property tax. So therefore, by virtue of residential, new development coming in, the special zoning category was set up to take care of some of the services that were being provided by the city, such as your law enforcement, your security services. At some point in time, your roads would need to be resurfaced, repaved, and sidewalks would be maintained, the street signs would be replaced. This was some of the thinking that went in, and as I explained to you whenever we had the discussion, this was the first residential development that this fee was placed on because we haven't had the multi-use zoning. And the way it encompassed the multi-use zoning, since Marketplace already had commercial, Sanders Road had commercial on the east side of it. This residential kind of fit like a glove in between those two commercial properties, so it was put into the multi-use category for the purpose of the residential. Now, obviously, we all know that you don't get the services that is provided free, and it's got to be some kind of revenue stream. As I told you, certainly we're willing to work to adjust that fee that's on your property. But if do an analogy and say, myself and my wife, we're going to have 2 kids, but we can't afford to have any more. We don't have enough money. It's kind of like taking in residential subdivisions that don't bring any revenue into the city, and therefore we keep bringing residential. We'll have to impose a city property tax on every resident in the city of Cumming, every property owner. So these are some of the things that we struggled with when we changed it from the commercial to the residential. And not only, this was one of the first one of the first developments that we did this to. We've got several other developments on the drawing board right now, and maybe one of them is already under construction. They're going to be paying the service fees. You can look at it that it will be a tax or any other thing, but any other type fee, but it's to maintain quality development and quality services in our community. Now, in reference to what the money will be used for, I think maybe the language that we had previously thought might be misleading to a certain extent, that it could be used in the general fund any way the city wanted it. But we have our city attorney here that might want to clarify that part of it, and I would ask if Kevin, if you would maybe come up here and explain that part of the ordinance that specifies what the city that money would be used and how to be used.
Sure. The ordinance as drafted captured the intent of the agreement between the developer and the city when it was originally prepared. The ordinance places money in the general fund because we can't place the money in an enterprise fund like water and sewer. It's not water and sewer revenues, and so that's why, even though it's collected on the water and sewer bill, that money doesn't go into the water and sewer enterprise fund. However, and we've given this opinion a couple of times, that the money needs to be used for services in the particular neighborhood. So money that's collected from this neighborhood, money that's collected from the neighborhood of the gentleman who just spoke, it would be inappropriate, for example, to use that money in Newberry or in Hickory Ridge or something like that. Money should be used in the neighborhood where those where the fees are collected.
So we keep up with the amount that we get from them?
I'm not doing your accounting, Councilman, so I mean, I can't sit here and say that at the end of the year when the accounts are reconciled, but I mean, you know, we do keep track, it's easy to keep track of the amount of money that's collected because it's been paid on a monthly basis, but it's certainly, and I'm sure you understand what I mean when I say it can't go into the enterprise fund. It's not water and sewer money. It'd be very inappropriate to put it there, and so that's why it's been placed into the general fund, but the money that's collected, that amount should be spent in the neighborhood where it was collected from.
In other words, the $85 a month that's currently collected right now will only be used back in that subdivision.
That's
development,
correct.
and it can't be used by law. So I'm sure that our city clerk and our independent city auditors has a separate fund based on what you're saying now, and I'm sure that they can go and tell you how much money is in the account for that development for future use. Now, one of the things that I think the board should take in consideration is that you have $85 currently per month per 133 lots would be coming in if they all sold, and I think probably they all may be. So conceivably, you're going to have in 10 years or 15 years of a development here that might not need any road improvements. Their streets may be good for that long, and then they might need a street lamp at the intersection at some point in time, or a traffic signal. It might need other things that have to be done in that development. So that conceivably you could have $1.5 million in the account, and that seems real extravagant to have that kind of money maybe to look at this. So if the board decided that they want to look at that and reduce that part of the money to maybe a more reasonable sum that could be justified to maintain the services for in that development, they could do that. Is that correct?
Oh, certainly, and we'll be happy to prepare whatever kind of ordinance or amendment to ordinances that we're given the direction to prepare.
Well, I make a motion that.
Let's discuss it before.
Okay.
Let's discuss it just a little more.
So this is an ordinance, that the fees assessed through our ordinance? It wasn't just a condition of the development?
It was when the multiple use zoning category was created. The first place this was placed, Councilman, was in this particular place where this developer was seeking to develop this residential property. And so, yes, it was placed in that, or in the ordinance. That's why I believe the mayor was mentioning earlier that there are other places where the MU zoning category is located. And so, unless and until there's some change made, and like I said, we'll prepare whatever change you want, unless and until there's some change made, it'll be collected wherever there's an MU zoning with residential uses in, and of course there would be, that's why it's called multiple use zoning.
So you're saying the multiple use should have been commercial?
No, I'm saying multiple use provides for mixture of commercial as well as residential, and this is imposed upon the residential.
And in that ordinance, the residential has this fee attached to it?
Yes, that's correct.
So my question is, because it's an MU zone, so I understand that where Marketplace Commons is located, that you have Marketplace Boulevard, you have Sanders Road, and then you have Marketplace Commons subdivision, which is where these folks live. And so it never would have been approved as a standalone under just a purely residential zoning, if somebody wanted to do a subdivision. So the original developer requested it be changed to MU from commercial, but MU should include residential, probably a component of office and then retail/restaurant space.
But it doesn't, right?
And that's where I'm a little confused is how, so I understand why it got zoned to MU, but, these folks just live in a subdivision, but it is MU, and I understand with an MU zoning, because of the three categories, we do need to charge a fee. We may need to lower it from $85 but at the end of the day, they live in a subdivision that is zoned MU, and I'm just wondering
But here's,
where the commercial piece is.
Yeah, where's the commercial? Is there any?
the
I'm
commercial.
gonna let your planning director answer
Yeah.
that.
If I could respond to that,
And Scott, by the way, Scott Morgan is planning director and just has finished up recently the land comp planning for the next 20 years, so you can bring them up to date in reference to the commercial part of this
yes, sir.
plan.
When, as you said, Mayor, earlier, Marketplace was developed, the west side of Sanders Road was developed. Those were developed independently as commercial zoning. Originally planned unit development and then changed to planned shopping center. The MU zone, when it was created, as you said, Councilman Light, was created, there was a component in there to put the residential services fee on a residential portion. The commercial part of this development is the piece that is at the corner of Buford Dam Road and Sanders Road that is currently undeveloped. You've got about a 2 1/3 acre piece of property there. So when the developer, who was originally Doug Cotter and Ryland Homes, came in to rezone this, they rezoned all of that to MU. It was 51 acres.
So they owned all the property,
They owned all the property.
not just Marketplace Commons.
Not just Marketplace Commons, they owned all that property, and then they elected and were approved to develop the residential portion, the Marketplace Commons subdivision first, and then they will come in, and then they were proposing to come in and develop that corner piece, which, as of today, still sits vacant. But, I mean, I know at some point that will be developed commercial at that corner.
Does this zoning force them to develop the commercial?
Yes, the MU zoning covers both the residential and the commercial development, so it
How
covers
many
both.
times you have a developer come in and build the commercial, build the residential, forget the commercial?
Well, and of course,
So
They haven't
Marketplace
built the commercial
Commons,
yet.
so Marketplace Commons is the residential piece of a larger MU development.
that's correct.
So the corner of Buford Dam and Sanders, and I know there are office buildings, a daycare that face Sanders, so that corner is a commercial corner.
It is a commercial corner, and I know they'll develop it,
Okay.
as a commercial component at some point.
Thank you for that clarity, because I was trying to fix, so it wasn't just Marketplace Commons owned by itself, and
No.
so that helps me understand how it came to be this way.
And I might also add, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think during the discussion of the residential property and the MU zoning, which the board didn't care to consider just residential, but at the time it was discussed residential, the developer talked about making it a gated community. And if it had been gated, that would have meant the HOA of the development would have been responsible to maintain everything inside of the development. The roads, provide security, garbage service, curbside pickup, the whole thing. So they backed away from that when they saw the tremendous responsibility by it being gated. So then they came back and said, well, what about the MU zone? And they self-imposed this $85. Ryland Homes and the owner of the property, the real estate people, and the city agreed to do it at that time with the MU zoning because it fit inside of Marketplace and Sanders Road. Because at one time it was all one piece of property that was all zoned commercial.
That's correct, that's
So
exactly correct.
that's the way all that came about.
But that's easy to do when you're not paying the fee.
So in moving forward, we are going to have several MU projects that will have a combination, like this one, once it's finished, we'll have residential, office, and retail / restaurant, and which is the whole point of an MU zoning.
That's correct.
And so I do understand that because there's a burden on us to provide a lot of services, and I understand why the residential component needs to pay a fee, but I think, it's pretty obvious that at $85 that we feel like that, and because this was the first MU, and you have to have a trial run and everybody has to have a first time, And so obviously, I think it's apparent that we feel like $85 after hearing from the residents is too much, but.
I'd like, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to suggest, maybe looking at something, I guess half would be $42.50 and maybe even getting down to around $25, per home per month and just, I'm asking
I
a question
think you need
the
to
council.
redo the zoning that lists the fees for so many years and then reduces them and whatever. Because the developer can easily say, sure, $85 a house, that's fine. They're not paying it.
Well, in that same vein, I'd like to ask the Deepak, do you mind coming back up? Did y'all have anything else for Scott? Did y'all know when you bought your house the fee was there? Did the developer tell you? Was it in your deed or was it in your closing packet or anything like that?
Yes, I can tell what happened in my case. We saw the home, everything looks good, the prices are discussed, and we are signing the contract. So one page comes with the contract saying, this is what the $85 is. And I'm in the process of signing, And at the time, oh yeah, it's city who is imposing these fees. That's fair, it's equal for everybody. I should be paying if I want to live here. That's it. It stays there. But when you start actually paying and realize, talking to my friends, saying, hey, we do this, I don't see that in my bill. That's where you figure out, I am a resident here, you are also a resident
Right.
of the same city. Why is it that I end up paying and not you?
So,
That's how I say it's unfair. I now understand it's multi-use, but for me, it's a confined community, it's residential.
But you are part of an overall larger
It's still not
development.
multi-use.
Right.
Linda, that
They
kind
can
of,
really explain that to you
Linda,
very
that
well,
kind of goes to your
can't they?
point though. Linda, maybe we, in the MU zoning, we also, if we are going to make some changes, we make a change where they have to be notified.
And maybe we should have so many years, they pay X amount, and
A step down type
then if
thing.
you sell the house, it starts over.
Well, I think what we need to do is look at the inventory. Is there anything that you guys know of that some of the money that's already been paid could be used for?
That you can look
the
at
neighborhood?
what that money is used.
But I'm saying, are there any maintenance type things in your neighborhood? I mean, how old is this neighborhood?
No, because the last homes were recently, so I don't think.
Real, it's pretty new? 3 years?
It's very new.
Okay.
We do pay HOA
We-
for 720.
We'd be glad to we had agreed on terms of the meeting tonight, we'd have one speaker, but if some of you have some additional information, certainly we want to put it into our minutes in our meeting, but to keep it orderly, we'll ask, if we do recognize anybody to come up and speak, we'd like to not speak from out there to come up here and before we can get you on the record. So with that, Mr. DePack, do you think, in light of what our attorney has told us tonight in reference to how the money would be used, would this be something that would be, that you think the HOAs would be in favor of if we have a smaller revenue stream from the development and it's only used for that development, never be used anywhere else?
I think it's fair if my other neighbor, if they has something to say, definitely.
Okay.
My name is Jillian Vaughn, and I also live there at Marketplace Commons, but I had a couple of questions for the attorney that just weren't clear to me. When he was going over the services, I don't think even he was clear specifically what those services are. Is there a way that we can get a listing of that from the city clerk's office so that we know what the services are that they're supposed to be providing, and then we can even know whether or not we're getting those services?
That's fair enough.
Is that fair enough? And I think it's difficult for us to even answer that question before we know what the services are. We can't agree to that before we know what they are.
Let me ask you a question then, Ms. Vaughn. What services would you expect to have in your development from the city?
Well, right now, most of the things that we do need, we are getting through our HOA. As stated previously, our community is so new I mean, the roads are good, those are the types of services, of course, that they would provide. We are getting garbage pickup. Currently, right now, we don't have recycling, so I know that's something else on the agenda that we're gonna talk about here today. But, you know, it's kind of difficult for us to anticipate what we'll be needing. I mean, I think road service probably would be one of the things, but that may come, you know, 5-10 years down the line right now. As the gentleman said, I think they're just completing the last 2 homes in our neighborhood.
I want to ask you a question. Do you pay an HOA fee?
Yes, we do.
What is your fee?
Our fee is $750?
$750 a year?
Yes.
And do you have a swimming pool or something they're
Yes,
keeping
we do.
up?
We have a swimming pool.
Okay. Define what that $750 HOA, in other words, we don't want to overlap your
No.
HOA fees.
Right.
The city does it, but I'll go back to what my original question. What reasonable services do you think that y'all would want the city to serve you with?
I think the best way, I know I'm kind of coming new into this today, but is for us maybe to first look at everything being provided by our HOA, and then everything that the city attorney said should be provided, and if we could look at the two, find the overlaps, and then I think us as a group, we could come together, Marketplace Commons, look at that and come back to you. I mean, I want to give you, you know, an appropriate answer. I don't just want to give you an answer. I want to give you an answer that's going to be meaningful for our community. But I think we need to get a little bit more information so that we can give you that proper feedback.
And you know we're trying to protect our revenue stream, but we don't want to overcharge.
Exactly. And then we could look at that point and kind of determine what would that cost, you know, over the course of 5 years or whatever that amount of time is.
Got somebody else to speak.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vine.
Sure.
Kevin or
I'd recognize the gentleman in the red shirt if he would come on up to the podium and state your name, sir, for the record. And
Thank you. So my name is Daniel Malarkey, and I live in Marketplace Commons. That is my real last name. So I guess what we're getting down to, and I appreciate you guys talking this through for us, because learning from the attorney that this money should only go into our neighborhood is news to us. The paperwork that we signed definitely states that this money goes to the city to be used for police and streets and the functioning of the city. So my question, you had mentioned that this is a way to bring in revenue from a neighborhood that brings no revenue otherwise. What do the other residents in the city of Cumming bring in revenue to the city?
Well, there's a difference.
There's a difference. They were residential.
Yeah, they were zoned purely residential on a standalone. You're part of an overall larger development that is MU. And you have a commercial component that the building's not built yet, but the corner there beside your neighborhood will be commercial. And so your neighborhood never would have been zoned residential as Marketplace Commons standalone would not have been approved according to the mayor.
No, I understand that, but I mean, you're saying that we're bringing in a revenue stream of $85 a month or $135,000 a year, basically, as we all did the math, that do the rest of the citizens of Cumming not generate income into the revenue into the city? I mean, in a general sense. Not from an MU, but from a general sense.
If we live in a residential place, I've lived in the same spot for 49 years. When I first moved here, yes, I paid city taxes. Once Floyd became mayor, they stopped the city taxes. We didn't have to pay them. So no, I paid no city taxes in I don't know, 40 years. But the reason is I moved into an area zoned residential. Now you moved into an area zoned multi-use. It would never have been developed if it wasn't multi-use. You see what I'm saying?
I just bought a house. I didn't
I know,
own it.
but we really wanted commercial.
What I'm saying is
one
that
important
our understanding
point.
was the $85 a month tax, because let's be honest, this is a tax, not a fee. Let's stop calling it that. The tax was spread across the whole community. The whole city should be paying, sharing in the responsibility of the police force and the streets and the streetlights and the sidewalks.
Well, that's true. But
if you're not paying taxes in your
But do
community
you
for 40
understand the
years-
reason you're paying taxes and I'm not?
No, I don't understand that. You can zone it however you want.
let's wait just a minute, please.
I think it's a matter of
Orderly
semantics is
meeting,
what
I
you're
think
saying
it's-
to me.
I think
As
it's
a
a
layman,
minute.
I'm not a city councilman.
Just a minute, sir. We want to have an orderly meeting. I think the question has been answered that comparative to a residential zone and a multi-use zone.
Right.
That's the issue, and I think that's been explained.
Okay.
So,
I have one more point of clarification, going back to Mr. Deepak's comment about, one resident pays it, one doesn't. And just so everybody understands, everyone that happens to live in a neighborhood that is part of an MU zoning is going to pay a fee. Now, so there is no one is being unfairly treated in that regard. You guys just happen to be the first development under the MU zoning. And I think that's a big deal because it's not an apples to apples comparison if you're talking to another resident that is just in a subdivision that was zoned purely residential from the get-go. I mean, that's an apples to oranges comparison. And so there are other MU projects coming online, and they are going to have a fee.
In fairness, I understand what you're saying.
What we want to focus on is making sure we find the correct fee. And I think we're all in agreement that 85 may be too much for all the reasons that have already been spelled out. And so, Mayor, I'll defer back to you.
That was my next question too.
I think we've answered those questions in fairness to everyone, and obviously, we welcome all of you to our community. We're a very diverse community, and we appreciate all of you coming into our community. But obviously, we've had no city property taxes for 40 years, and we hope we don't have to impose a property tax because becoming a bedroom community with a lot of residential subdivisions under purely residential with no MU zoning. So this is where we are. We think $85 is too much. I do, and I hope the board will agree to that. But I think we have to reach a agreement that there must be some kind of revenue stream for that development under an MU zone that will support maintenance and upkeep of police services, the 911s, these kind of things as your development ages. And obviously, we all know you'll have, at some point in time, owners will need roads resurfaced, they'll need street signs replaced, there'll be sidewalks to break up, there'll be accidents to happen, you might need a traffic signal. So these are some of the things that we want to protect the citizens from down the road, because it'd be a sad day whenever, if it ever came, that we didn't have the money to do the services that was needed in development. And by virtue of reserving a certain amount of money, whichever we can think is a fair assessment for the service fee or the maintenance fee, or if you want to call it some kind of tax, whatever you want to call it, you can. But we put it in the ordinance as a service fee. And to clarify things more, as our attorney has said, obviously all money that comes in, whether it's in the enterprise zone fund for the water department or the sewer department, or whether it's the police department, whether it's the country fair and festival fees, the permit fees, it all goes to the general fund. Then it's put into the different accounts that it should go in. And like I said, I'm positive that our city clerk and our independent auditors that audit the book, this money will be in a fund for that. And due to the fact that the city has collected a year or maybe more in some cases for this $85 a month, it might be that as Councilman Ledbetter alluded to, you may can skip a period of time and with the fees, and then start back with a nominal fee that we can agree on.
Would it make most sense to have a cap on the amount that should be sitting in that account, say 250,000 or 500,000, and then if the money dips below that amount, then the fee goes back into place at whatever reduced amount?
Something can be looked at, yes.
We can consider all options, but for purpose of tonight's meeting, I mean, I think we've heard the concerns, and as the mayor and council, we understand kind of how it came to be that way and why it is that way. And listen, we want to fix it. We want you guys to be excited, to be living in the city of Cumming. You know, we love all our residents and want to do a good job for them. And so, you know, this is just a case of this was the first MU. We're trying to get it right. You know, whatever was done, if we see it wasn't done exactly correctly. And so we'll revise it and we'll get it there, and we appreciate everybody's comments and feedback tonight.
In that vein,
Developer should have sent you a letter saying,
Yeah.
hey.
in that vein,
All of us have heard a different story. Some of us told that the property was zoned commercial, so it had bigger sewer pipes. We had to pay the difference between what it cost for sewer pipes. Some of us were told, you know, we were all given slightly various answers. So for the long time, we've been trying to figure out exactly what this $85 a month was going towards. So I do appreciate at least having more knowledge so that I can.
Scott or Kevin, do y'all know where we came up with the $85? How was that the number we landed on? Do you remember it all?
He's already explained it, I think, with the builder and the developer, I think,
They
came up with it.
it.
The builder and the developer came up with it?
They did, that
was
was during the negotiations.
Oh, okay.
And I said that was kind of easy for them because they didn't have to pay it. And evidently they didn't inform you of it until you were signing to buy your
You're
house.
signing your stack of closing papers, because that's always the time you want to learn new things.
The packet, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Levine. You have any other questions from us? I think the appropriate thing would probably be to appoint maybe a committee to study what options would maybe serve your community the best, and maybe come back at the next meeting and try to resolve the issue. And maybe I may want to meet with some of you during that period of time before the next meeting and talk about this and try to have a resolution to it. Obviously, we want to have something that your community and your neighbors would all, be in favor of. Obviously, not paying anything would probably be the best solution, but in the MU zone, we can't do that. As the ordinance specifies, when you're a multi-use zone, that it was set up that it was $85 a month under an MU zone. But the board, council tells us the board can change that $85. And we certainly look to have it in a more reasonable manner that can be maybe, and they may come back with a cap as suggested, something that would be suitable for your development with 133 homes in it.
Thank you. I just have two comments there. Number one, in the past nobody can go, but at the time when it became evident that multi-use, there would be some residents. Things should have been thought that all this revenue stream should be spread across all the residents. But it's fair at this time where we are, if city also has to consider for the revenue stream to provide these services, we as a resident cannot come to a figure. So basically, city has to come with some fair, good number that these are the services, these are the fair amount which we have to keep coming from the neighborhood, and maybe going forward when this committee or some arrangement can be decided mutually, that would be a fair arrangement.
Okay. And certainly that's reasonable, and as Ms. Vaughn alluded to earlier, what the city services that we do, the city of Cumming does for your development. We'll give a list of all of those, so you'll have them so you can discuss them and seeing if that's agreeable, and certainly see if some of your HOAs might overlap some of those things, And let's look at all of them since we're working on this, because whatever affects your development is going to affect all the others that's on the drawing board right now. So we want to be sure we get everything on the table and try to get it right. Is that, council, have any other questions?
No, I think that sounds
You
appropriate.
meet with them and
Do you have any other questions, Mr.
This guy's had a question for a while.
Yes, sir, if you would, come up, please,
Come
and
to the
state your
podium,
name for
please.
the record.
My name is Brent Chesley. I'm also obviously a resident. I appreciate you guys taking some extra time to talk about this. I just wanted a couple of clarifications. So for Ryland, it almost sounds like they found a hole in the system. do they have actually any requirement to turn this development into a multi-use facility? Because we're in a zone and we're paying a fee to be in that zone, but I want to make sure that you guys understand, this is a neighborhood, this is not a multi-use development. They may put something off-site, but we're not talking about like Avalon, Halcyon, those types of developments. We're talking about a neighborhood.
I think, Mr. Chesley, I thought we explained that because
And I understand the zone.
whenever it was all zoned, and this development where you live was in the part of Marketplace Boulevard. All of that property was together in zone commercial.
Right.
And then the commercial developed on Sanders Road also. So that made this property fit like a glove in multi-use zoning because
Right.
you had commercial and retail and offices
I mean, that
on
makes sense.
Marketplace.
It's
So
just like
it
multi-use, I think, like Avalon and those types of
But
things.
let me talk about that for a second because it took me a minute to understand it as well.
Right,
If you drive by, your neighborhood looks like it was just a subdivision.
right.
It is part of an overall larger development that's multi-use and it has commercial. That corner will be. Avalon's a different style. So the developer of your development, he's selling the commercial piece to somebody else. He sold the residential piece to Ryland. Even at Avalon, the commercial piece was sold. Whoever developed Avalon, they sold the commercial piece to somebody. They sold the residential piece to somebody else. The difference is that is a vertical development, and all the different uses had more overlap. In this case, it was taken as a long, big piece of property, and it was said, all right, this block will be residential, this piece will be commercial. And so they're not actually overlapping.
But is there any requirement for them to actually follow through?
Well,
with the
and
promise?
because of your question, I mean, the corner that is commercial, it will be commercial. I mean, so in that sense, they're going to follow through. Ryland just bought the piece for the residential piece,
I
but
understand it's zoned commercial, but is there any requirement for them to actually put anything on it, or do we just pay a fee for being in a multi-use zone just because we're in the zone, but don't actually get any benefits outside of?
the benefit of the fee is the city services that we will provide, and we've already talked about all that. So the fee specifically just is for the city to provide those services.
Okay.
Now, because of your question, and that's a good, it's thought-provoking, is so multi-use moving forward, how does it need to look? How does it need to overlap and interact? I mean, technically, you are in a multi-use zoning. I mean, there is commercial, there is residential. So, and, that's the same as Avalon. It's just the execution it's intertwined differently in an Avalon or an Atlantic Station or something like that.
Makes sense.
Maybe we need to work on that zoning.
And then, yeah, well, it just sounds like Ryland may have found a little bit of a way to get in there, but.
Let's, any other questions, Council Howell? Let's wrap this up, and my appointments to the committee will be Councilman Welch and Councilman Ledbetter along with me, and we'll be working with maybe you, Mr. Dupac, in reference to trying to resolve the issue that'll be amenable and likened to your home tenant.
I would also request a couple of other residents to be part of that meeting.
I didn't hear your question.
I would request that part of that meeting, there would be at least 2 more residents to be part of that meeting, so we have a different perspective in the neighborhood too.
Okay.
That'd be fair enough.
Sure.
That'll be great. We'll work it where it'll be amenable to all of you. Yes.
Thank you.
And thank y'all for coming and bringing it to our attention. Like I said, this was a beautiful development, and the city of Cumming wanted to keep it that way over the years. So we wanted to be able to provide the services. So thank y'all again, and we'll be back in touch, and hopefully with the committee, we'll have a solution by the next meeting, October meeting, and resolve the issue so it, help everybody out.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Okay, on the other issue, and I think this affects a lot in the Marketplace Commons, is the curbside recycling, and this is something that was tried several years ago by the city, and it didn't go over because a lot of the recycling that was collected by the city, we couldn't get anybody to take it whenever we started first recycling. They had some places out of state that you could ship it to, but we didn't have anybody local, so that didn't go over so good. But since I've been able to go to a lot of the development subdivisions and talking to a lot of the homeowners, I found that there's a lot more interest in recycling. So this is one of the things that we want to bring to the forefront, and I think Mr. Devaney, you want to speak in reference to that tonight, so come on up if you would, please.
Hi again. So I was doing some research, and it looks like we're paying roughly $45 a quarter for our trash pickup, whereas with Advanced in Forsyth County charges $30 per quarter with curbside recycling. So we're paying more and getting less. So we were looking at, I go to the recycle center.
Let me just correct you 1 minute.
Okay.
Just a minute. Advance is charging 30.
30.
And you're getting, but let's don't cherry pick. A lot of them is charging more than that.
Red Oak charges $37.50 per quarter. So we did look at it, and we, and this is in Forsyth County, outside of incorporated county. And I go to the recycle center every week. It's hard to believe, but I'm actually more passionate about this than I am about that fee. So I see tons of people at the recycle center every Saturday and Sunday. And I think that this is definitely something that people are looking forward to, and we are definitely in the time and age where we could do something easily. Because these companies, both these companies already offer recycling in Sanders Road and beyond, just not within the city limit. Back to revenue for the city, just as a thought, the current recycle center could become an electronics recycle center. The city could charge a fee. The closest one is downtown Atlanta. So we could become the north hub for recycling the hard to recycle items, and you could charge a fee to everybody that comes to recycle their TVs, their computers, or any other type of appliance that is hard to recycle. The city could generate revenue easily. The property is already there to be used. I see it as a win-win. So it's definitely something I'd like the city to take bids on as soon as possible.
What about our recycling center off of, I can't think of the road.
Talbot Street.
Yeah, Talbot Street.
Yeah, we
I'm
have.
not familiar with that one.
We
Yeah,
have.
that's where I take my stuff.
I come down here to downtown
This is.
by the fairgrounds.
Yeah, that's Talbot
Yeah, it's
Street.
down
Oh, okay, that's where I go.
Yeah,
And
Talbot
there's,
Street.
that's where
yeah.
I see all the
We
people.
have the recycling down there.
So those are the people that are willing to drive, and as we know, most people aren't.
But I understand the curbside part of it and for convenience, and certainly with all of the feedback that I've gotten over the last few months, that I think is something that we need to look at. And I think probably the best way to do this would be to do a survey of our customers and see what percentage of them. And I'm like you, I think it's going to be a large amount that would want the curbside pickup, and that would determine the fees, I think,
You
the
have
charges.
to pay a little bit more,
We've
don't
got,
you?
well,
So-
we've just got to see what it costs.
I think.
Well, I think if you go with one of these companies, you give them the whole city contract at $30 a month, or $37.50, or $40 a month. It's still less money.
I think
don't think
we're
we
going
need to raise the
I
rates.
think
I
we
mean,
can
if we
be
do,
cheap.
that's fine, but-
I think based on a current contract, the contractor, they do curbside at some places. So I think we can deal and work out a better deal probably for the city residents than maybe you quoted. So that's something
That would be great.
we want to work
Yeah.
on. So with that, I would appoint another committee to come back with us next month after the survey and see what comes up with and make a recommendation to us. So we'll try to resolve that. And I think we're going to have a positive effect from the standpoint of recycling.
How are you gonna survey? The website? Sent on the water bill?
Yeah, it'd be sent out on the water
Water bill.
bill, and utility bill, and that just, the city's contract for the garbage pickup is just the city of Cumming, even though we have water customers that go all the way to Matt and all the way to Cold Mountain and all the way to Betheview. So the city service area as far as water and sewer extends a lot further, but This contract is just for the city of Cumming, and I think we can work that out for everybody, so we'll work on that for you.
Sounds good.
Thank you for coming, and my appointment will be Commissioner Light and Councilman Light and Councilman Holton here for the recycling, and we'll hopefully get a survey and can get back with you.
Sounds good.
We'll hopefully have that at our next meeting. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming. Okay, item B, under the street department, we have a traffic signal that was approved sometime back for Pilgrim Mill, Lanier 400 Park Sidewalk. Jason McCook here has give us an update. I haven't seen the lights blinking out there. Jason?
No, sir, there's no lights out there yet. We did get a little bit of good news this evening, or this afternoon. Gwinnett County, as you know, we were trying to negotiate with them for mast storms. They have agreed that they're willing to surplus the mast storm poles that we were looking for. Still got to do the paperwork, still got to figure out what they're willing to sell the poles back to the city of Cumming for. We did go out last week after the storm on Wednesday morning, look at the site with the contractor and our people that are more or less specialists in signal installation. We feel like those poles that Gwinnett County has will work for the site, which will then alleviate our issue that we have with getting the actual signal poles that were to be manufactured. It would eliminate that issue.
So when should we have it?
As soon as we can get a price and as soon as we can get Gwinnett County to give us the thumbs up to, yes, we're surplusing it, and yes, here's the price that we agreed to with the city of Cumming.
Get Gwinnett County to do what?
They have the poles in hand. They actually have the poles. After we found out that we could not get the poles manufactured with a delay, we did a blanket search high and low for mast storms all over North Georgia. And fortunately, Gwinnett County, by the stroke of luck, had 2 mast storms.
Right at them to get that pole.
Yes, so we went back and talked to them. There was a little bit of conversation with them about that. And again, today they actually got confirmation they're willing to surplus it. We just need to get back with them on a price and then to get an agreement to do that. I think originally we had talked about doing an intergovernmental agreement. I think we don't need an intergovernmental agreement. I think it's a simple sales contract between Gwinnett County and the city of Cumming.
Well, it looks to me, this has been going on for 3 months, and we found out after we signed a contract with the bidder on the construction of the intersection red lights that we find out that they can't get the material, the poles is a 6-month delay.
Yes, sir.
And we find that Gwinnett County has got some in stock that we can get, and I don't know, other than signing a piece of paper with them, what are we waiting on? I mean, we've agreed to buy them, or we've agreed to replace them whenever the stock becomes available. So I don't understand really what we're waiting on.
We have to get, one, I understand from what Gwinnett County told me today, or what I was relayed from Gwinnett County, was they have to formally surplus the poles. They can't just simply say, we have poles, we'll sell them to you. They have to officially surplus those poles. They're in the process of doing that.
Okay. We've known that Gwinnett has the poles for a month, probably, I guess, going on 3 or 4
Probably
weeks.
about 3 weeks now.
So we know what kind of poles they are, then we know they'll fit the bill for this project here. Why would the contractor not be doing the base work and all the groundwork to get ready to set those poles on once they've delivered over here?
He is in the process of marking out the loops that we were going to do, and I'll get in touch with him tomorrow or as soon as I can and let him know. Now, he was, to some degree, that company was also under contract in the last couple of weeks with the storm that we had last week. they were under contract elsewhere in the state to put signals back into operation. So that delayed them a little bit. But now as far as getting them back and getting work out there going, I'll get them into gear to get that happening.
We have a development out there, a lot of people who wants to get in from their subdivision into Pilgrim Mill Road, and due to the fact of a lot of the construction that's been on 400, they've been unable to get in the lane and get out in the road. And this traffic signal, I hope before the school gets opened up out there, that we get the traffic signal. It's something that the council thought that we was putting
Hope we'd have it by October.
having it. But
Well, we made the comment we would try to have it in place prior to the start of this school year, which was early August.
Yeah.
And so we're going to roll up on being a minimum of 2 months late, and so that's, I think we're just all a little bit embarrassed by that, but I understand the problem.
I mean, truthfully, if I'd have known that we were gonna have a manufacturer delay of the mast arms, I wouldn't have told you 8 to 10 weeks as we originally told y'all. But, once we gave them, the night that we got this approved, we went the next day and gave them a notice to proceed. So within about a week, I got a call back saying, that 8 to 10 week period that we originally told y'all we could handle that, it's more or less doubled. It went from 14 to 16 weeks. So when that occurred, that put us out on all alert to try to find some other way to get a mast, get the mast arms or signal poles in place in another means. We went through all these suppliers trying to see if we could get them to do it quicker, and every one of them told us there's only really about 3 suppliers of mast arms throughout the country, and they're just super backlogged.
They're supplying for the hurricane probably.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know that they're just super backlogged, and based on that, they told us that we can't get it any expedited any quicker than that 14 to 16.
Okay. If you had the poles tomorrow, you're not ready for them then.
I've got to we'll get the utilities marked up. The utilities need to be field located out there. We can do that. Once we get the foundations poured in for the signal cabinet and the actual foundations for the screen pole, we can start doing that as well.
Well, I'm gonna personally try to make some calls and see if we can get the poles ASAP right quick. But what about the contractor being ready for them if they deliver it out there? And how long is that going to be?
I'm told that's what he's really waiting on. It's when he knows that he can get the poles, he can then start doing some work. But he really wants to have those poles ready to go. So that's imperative that we know when the poles can be.
Well, I think,
What's the difference?
I think we all know that you got to put the foundation in for the poles, and they know what the poles are. Whenever the poles are laying on the ground, it doesn't make sense that it's going to have another month to put the foundation in and let the concrete cure out for the poles to be placed on it. So we're going to be on down the road till next year.
No, sir. I hope I'm hoping we'll have the signal, if not absolutely operational, at least everything will be in place before the end of this year. That's the intent. I hope to actually have it before the end of November, if all possible. That's the game plan, if not sooner.
Okay.
I wish I could.
The problem is we don't have enough people to work. I think they got jobs other places. The contractors have jobs other places, and this is putting a traffic signal in is probably a small job for them.
Well, it is a one-time shot for them. Obviously, they've got other projects out throughout the state, but this is important to them. And I will give you some evidence. They're willing to work with us. They've tried to do everything they can with the information that was given to them, but I mean, they tried to go back to their supplier to see if they could expedite
The state didn't have any extras?
No, nobody keeps, well, mast arms that we're doing for this intersection are almost unique to each intersection.
Oh.
And so.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jason, for the update.
Thank you.
Didn't help us any, but thank you anyway. Okay, under item 2, Stonehaven subdivision, I think this is something that the attorney will speak to in reference to Stonehaven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in 1993, the developer of the Stonehaven subdivision executed a deed conveying the rights of way for certain streets to the city of Cumming. The city never had a formal acceptance of that. That was recently discovered, and so we're just doing this resolution to clean it up. These have been city streets for approximately 25 years. The city owns both sides of the road, is in the city where these go. These are city streets. We're just doing a formal acceptance of this to clean up this very small issue. That's all it is, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the conveyance
Okay.
from the developer in 1993.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Under item C, 606 Pine Lake Drive, John Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Us in the Planning and Zoning Department, one of our responsibilities is taking care of what we call nuisance properties. We've been made aware that there's a house located on Pine Lake Drive. It's been vacant for many months and has been allowed to go into a state of disrepair in that the vegetation has grown up around the house. In addition to that, the previous residents there have left a large amount of junk and appliances, dirty mattresses, things of that nature, all around the outside of the house. Fortunately, we have a nuisance property ordinance in effect that would allow us to abate that situation. Of course, our intention is always to work with the property owner first and have them abate it for us so that we don't have to step in. But what the Planning and Zoning Department would like to ask the council for is permission to start that process, start the contact with the property owner to try to move forward and get this abated for the other surrounding residents.
Thank you, John. And council have any questions? Basically, I've been over to view the subject 606 property, and it's a dilapidated area for the property there, and it's got a lot of trash, and it's becoming more of a dump. So I would recommend to the council that we approve his request to start the proceedings so we can resolve that issue. So
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Please vote. Unanimous. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council.
Okay, under Park and Rec, we have floor scrubbing equipment for the Park and Rec department.
Thank you, Mayor. At Dobbs Creek, we have, for the last 15 years, been using a floor scrubber to clean the floors of the basketball courts. Like I said, it's 15 years old now. It's stopped being operable, and you can no longer find replacement parts for it. So we were looking to replace that piece of equipment. We solicited bids, and we received 2 bids back. One from People's Janitorial Supply for $10,864.04. The other one from Athens Janitorial Supply for $16,821. We've checked the references on the People's Janitorial Supply and the equipment they are selling, and found those to be favorable. So we are recommending that we go with the low bid from People's Janitorial Supply for $10,864.04.
Question, was this in your budget for
Yes,
this
sir.
piece of equipment?
It was budgeted for, and actually, it's we're coming in a couple of $1,000s under what was budgeted.
Well, if it lasted 15 years, you're doing good.
I think we've got our money out of it, so if we get 15 years out of this one, I'll be happy.
Okay, we have a request here from the Park and Rec Director for People's Janitorial Service Supply for $10,864.04 for a floor scrubbing machine. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make the motion, we buy it.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
One question. Trade-in value?
What's that?
You getting trade-in?
We don't, they did not offer us a trade-in. I found that hard to believe. I thought we'd at least get a couple $100 off of it, but no trade-in value.
Motion unanimous.
Thank you. Y'all.
Thank you, Dave. Greg. Okay, utilities, Mr. John Hurd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Back in about 1963, the City of Cumming constructed an oxidation pond. It looked like a big lake, and that was our method of treating the wastewater in our town. A few years later, about 1992, we decided we'd move the plant down Buffalo View Road, and the mayor and council made the decision to build a 2 million gallon wastewater treatment plant. It was state-of-the-art. It spent about $6 million. I think that started a lot of the growth. I think it laid the foundation for the growth in this county, because that was about the only wastewater plant that there was around. Then in about 2008, the mayor and council decided it was time to expand the plant. We went from 2 million to 8 million gallons per day. And we have a picture over here of our latest advanced water reclamation facility. That facility cost the city about $32 million. And currently it's operating at about 30% of the capacity. It's operating 2.5 million gallons per day out of the 8 million. When I have kids that come do tours, I tell them that thing can treat 8 million milk jugs of sewage a day. So they kind of can get their mind around that concept. The City of Cumming has been discharging from that new facility since 2008. And every day there's many tests, 30, 40, 50, 100 tests a day that are conducted by our laboratories. And we have to check the quality of the water going out of the plant into the creek. We have a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, an NPDES permit. You've probably all seen that acronym around, NPDES, used for different purposes. But in this case, this is a direct discharge of highly treated effluent into Big Creek, which when it's discharged into Big Creek, you go 21 miles downstream and the city of Roswell pulls the water out for drinking water. So we have a very big responsibility to maintain this facility and to make sure it's operating properly. And we have a great staff, and several of the staff members are here today, and I'm going to point them out in just a minute. But so I wanted to announce to you that the city has won a 19-year Platinum Award. This award was given to us by the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. It's a federal agency. In addition to that, we also applied and won a 19-year Platinum Award from the Georgia Association of Water Professionals. And what these awards mean is that the city's wastewater treatment plant for 19 years has had no non-compliance issues. In other words, all of those stringent requirements in that NPDES permit we met every year for 19 years, and that's quite a feat. It had to start with a great design, and the mayor and council, each one of you, allowed us to go and hire an engineer to design a high-tech wastewater treatment plant. You also allotted the money to build the plant, and if it hadn't been for you and your foresight and your looking into the future and willingness to invest in great technology that we have out there, we wouldn't be able to operate it well. But because you chose good technology and you allowed us to build a state-of-the-art plant, then that laid the foundation. And then beyond that, we have a great staff over here, and they have worked diligently day and night, 24 hours a day, pulling samples internal to the plant to make sure each step of the way the facility is running properly, also pulling samples of the water that enters into Big Creek to protect the environment. So out of all those tests that have been run for 19 years, and I couldn't tell you exactly how many, the city of Cumming has maintain complete and total compliance with their NPDES permit. Now, I just kind of, Mayor, if you want to take it from here, I do. Before we complete, I want to call out these names.
Okay. Thank you, John, and thank you for your leadership, and certainly Jimmy Andrews and his staff at the wastewater treatment facility. You know, back in the days when you're talking about, we had a pond here in town that had a profound sour odor that when you came to town, that's what you smelled. And when I when in office, I said, let's get rid of all this stuff here, so.
We had a unique name for it.
Well, obviously, tremendous amount of money that the city was going to be spending, and we tried to work with our county government to get involved in working with the water and sewer. The county chose not to be involved at that time, but later on did want to get involved when the city had made a real successful move and got the intake of the withdrawal at Lake Lanier, which obviously, after it's used, goes to the wastewater treatment facility. And I just want to commend your leadership, John, as director of the wastewater and the utilities department, and your staff that you have for 19 years in a row, we have, the city of Cumming has had peak performance award from the national and state authorities who looks at environment and the things that's done in not only the cities throughout our country, but the other aspects of private systems is put in, and that's one of the problems that we're incurring by a private system in the Habersham community now is because of a private system that hadn't maintained and kept up, and now it's obsolete, and it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to straighten out all this. And we applaud you and your staff for the hard work and dedication.
And I think we need to applaud our mayor and two of the city councilmen who have been responsible for being sure that you had the money to advance to the things that you needed.
Councilman Ledbetter, I agree with you. If the mayor and council didn't lay the foundation for us, there's no way that we could be successful in what we do. And we really do feel your support, and we appreciate all the support that we get, and the support in the budget times, and helping us with equipment that we request, and helping us with staffing these facilities. And we couldn't do it alone. We're all a big team, and we appreciate, Mayor, we appreciate your vision and vision for the future and planning for the future and concern about the entire county, not just the city of Cumming, and looking way into the future and willing to invest funds to, ensure that Forsyth County has quality growth for many years to come, up to 2050.
One reason for that is continuous leadership. You can look forward and see what you need for the future.
Well, obviously we're proud of it, and the main thing that we're proud of, we can provide solid wastewater treatment, and the city has no debt on this service, so that's the main thing we're proud of. So thank you, John.
Mr. Mayor, can I call out the names
recognize
of
your
these
names
folks?
and have them to come up and accept this plaque because they're responsible of it. Call their name, y'all.
That's right. I want each of y'all to come up. Jimmy Andrews is the superintendent. Jamie Sanford is the facility supervisor. We have Nolan G. Nolan G is a Class 1 operator. We have Corey Bruce. He's also an operator. We have Linda Lee. She's the pre-treatment coordinator and the lab manager. That's a big job. And Chase Sweat also. Is Chase here? There he is. Okay, I see him right there. You didn't line up in order. So Chase Sweat, he works really hard in the lab. We appreciate all the work that he does. So thank y'all very much.
Y'all would come on up right here. Let's get a picture.
There's a lot of experience to keep all this like it's supposed to go. With a name like that, does she need to? Notice I sit down real easy in this chair.
Yeah, Lewis
One
misses
time,
me.
Lewis pulled the chair.
He likes to bring that up pretty often.
Okay, the last item here, till we go in executive session, let me make announcements on the upcoming Playhouse shows. We have Forever Ray, which is Ray Charles Tribute, September the 23rd. We have two shows at 3 p.m. and at 8 p.m. Fiddler on the Roof, October the 13th, November the 5th at 8 p.m. and Thursday and Saturday at 3 p.m. and also 3 p.m. on Sunday. Upcoming fair events, we have Country Fair and Festival will be opening up for their annual shows and rides and events starting October the 5th through October the 15th. Monday through Thursday, the fair will open at 4 and close at 10 p.m. Friday, it'll open at 4 and close at midnight. On Saturday, it'll open at 10 and close at midnight. And Sunday, it'll be 12:30 to 9 p.m. So if you haven't attended the fair and festival, it's a family event. We have a lot of shows are going on. There'll be days of the fair that you can get in free. The gates are free. There'll be days that we'll have kiddie rides that'll be free. And so we invite everybody to come and join us at the fair and have a great family time. With that, hear a motion, we adjourn the meeting and go to recess the meeting for executive session.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please vote.
I think I voted early accidentally.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you. No new business to bring before this board, so at this time, I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. Please vote. Unanimous. Thank you very much.